Hello, everyone, and welcome to Concordia University's Fourth Space, and thank you for joining us for today's event, Space Day, where we welcome all of the fantastic divisions of Space Concordia. And today's event, we have Gabrielle from the Spacecraft division, correct? Going to be leading us through a soldering workshop. But just to help you situate yourself here, we are streaming live to YouTube from Fourth Space. We are located in unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Here at Fourth Space, we work with our university community, we mobilize knowledge, we co-create daily activities that examine research questions, projects, things in development here at the university. So we're running this as a live stream meeting. We welcome any comments or questions with a raised hand in the chat if you're joining by Zoom. For those of you in the space or walking by outside on the street, if you'd like to participate, just come on in and let us know by raising a hand, and we'll get a microphone to you or help you to the table for the workshop. With that, it's my pleasure to pass it over to Gabrielle. Thank you.
Thank you. So, welcome everybody. Today I'm going to be giving a basic soldering tutorial on how to, do a very basic board, get familiar with the process, and then you can move on after to a bit more complicated board. So we're going to do a very simple board that we designed in-house here. It's going to be a few components, a lot of through-hole mainly, so nothing too complicated, and then we'll be helping you guys to really get familiar with that stuff. Before we get started, let's just go over the basic safety stuff when you're dealing with this. So the solder that we're going to be using here is unleaded, so it's safe for that side. The main thing to be careful with is the iron. So when you turn it on, this thing, so this entire metal part is going to be eating up very high, 350 degrees. So do not touch this, always stay on these parts and you'll be fine. Never let down the iron on the ground. This stand is what it's for, so to hold it in place when you're not using it. And the sponge here is basically just to clean off the tip. So when you have stuff accumulating on it, you can always clean it off with the sponge. It's there for that reason. Sounds good? Okay. So the basic stuff that we'll start with, we're going to start with just a very simple through-hole component, just show you the process, and then I'll let you guys go at it. We also have some surface mounts, so instead of components going, or instead of the metal going through the PCB and you soldering under, there's going to be a pad at the top on which you have to solder. So you kind of have to place the component on there and then add the solder on top. We'll go over that stuff also, but don't worry, we made it pretty big. Can you pass me this one, guy? Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, we made it pretty big, so it's easy enough to do. Okay. So we're going to be taking this guy out. Might need some scissors, I just realized. Or these guys could do. Sorry about that. Okay. So the board I'm going to be working on is not the one you're going to be working on. It's just to kind of give the basic of it. And then you guys will have your own little kits that you actually will get to bring back. And it has a functionality, which we'll explain a bit after this. So we'll start with the basic through-hole stuff. So we'll take one of these guys out here. If I can get it out. Okay, so for these guys, you're going to have something similar where you're looking for just two basic holes here, and then you have two leads. Very simple. The best way to start is you want to get your two leads through. So you go one lead at a time, and you kind of pull them through the holes so that they both extend at the back here. And you want to lay it flat on your board. So for you guys, you're going to have mainly LEDs. You want to lay them flat like this. And then to make sure they stay in place, you bend the leads down. So you bend them down like that so they stay on wherever position you put it. Now, once you have done that, it's going to be much simpler to sit this on the table, and then this is where we actually start the soldering. So remember, this is very hot. The basic principle is that you're going to take this solder, and this is what you're actually going to use to stick the two metals together. So the metals on the board and the metals of the actual component. You always start by placing your iron on the metal. You want to heat it up. After a few seconds, you can go with the small metal and kind of touch it, and it should start melting, as you can see here. And if you've put your stuff hot enough to start with, you'll see it forms a bubble, and you can see that it's actually connected to the hole. It's not just standing on it. So maybe if you want to look at it yourself, here if you guys want to see it a little bit. So what's really important is to put the iron first, let the metals heat up a bit, because the two metals need to be hot enough to melt the solder, which is when they can actually make the connection. So you start with one side, then you're going to go with the other one. Again, same principle. You apply the heat, you wait a couple seconds, and then you put the solder onto it, and it's going to melt on its own. You add a bit, and then you let it go. Solder takes only a few seconds to solidify, so it's already solid now, and it's not too hot on the touch. Obviously, still be careful, but after 3-4 seconds, it's going to become solid, and you can make sure like it's pretty solid. You always have to look at it, because sometimes what's going to happen is if your metals are not hot enough, your solder is going to either stick to your iron, or it's going to stick on one of the metals, but not both of them. So always inspect after you do something to make sure it's properly set on. And when you're satisfied with it, again, we clean the iron and we put it back into its position. And then you can use one of these clippers and just clip off the tails. Be careful, because if you just do it like this, the pin's going to go off. So make sure you're holding onto it, so you're not sending pins up into your eyes. So we clip them off, and there you go. You have your components installed. It's on the top here. So yeah, that's for true hole. So all the other ones are going to be very similar. As you can see in the little bags right here, you have these red LEDs that have two very long LEDs, and we'll be basically putting these on. Now, another thing that's present are these kinds of things. So these are called surface mount components. So they have these little pads that you have to solder them on. The principle is very much the same. It doesn't vary. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just that instead of getting it through your board, it's a bit more difficult because you have to make it stand on the pad and then melt the metal onto it. So one big issue that happens with these guys is that you'll try to put your iron onto the component and it's going to push it away. So it's a bit tedious to try to hold it in place while putting your soldering. So you'll have to try a couple times, but at some point you'll get kind of the gist of it. So they come in these small packages. You just have to take them out of their plastic. So there's a little plastic film on top you have to take out. Also, we use tweezers most of the time because that's what's easiest to actually hold your components around and help you place it. Okay, so you have your components. They're very small, so careful not to lose them. We have extras, so if it happens, it's okay. But ideally, let's not lose too many of them. Okay, so if you guys want to maybe come around and see here, because it's not as easy to see. So you're going to try to kind of place it in a way where the really important part is that your two metal parts, right, are on both sides of it. And we're going to be doing the exact same principle. So you place it into place, then you take your iron again, you take your solder, and then you try to apply the metal to both without moving them too much. So that's the more tedious part. Melt the solder. Yeah, as you can see, that's what happens. So you have you move your component away. So what does help sometimes is to add the solder before. So you have a little bubble of solder. Place it on. And then you can actually go yourself. So you melt it again. So you see it transforms into liquid and then you kind of push it in. Oh, and then you go. If it does that, you know that it's connected because now it's kind of grabbing onto my iron. So you place it down, you remove the iron carefully, and then you let it cool off. So you can hold it. So right now you see, because I let it go too early, it's kind of popping off, right? So you want to kind of reapply the heat. So it might take a little bit. Yeah, so then you go, it's liquid again. Push it down. You hold it, and then you remove. And there you go, now it's solid. And now it's going to be really, you can't remove it, right? So these surface mounts are a bit more difficult. It's going to take some time to kind of get the grip of it, but you'll get through it. Yeah, and then once the first side is done, it's pretty easy to the second side. You just apply the heat, wait a little bit, and then you just add it on. There you go. Yeah, and what you're really looking for is, again, for that solder, you can see that it's connected both to the pad under it and to the actual metal of the component. And that's when you know that it's actually well done in place. Sounds good with everyone? Any questions to start with now? Okay, so what's gonna happen is you'll all each have your kits. You're gonna get started on it. We'll help you guys to get the grip of it. You assemble all of it, then we'll actually test it to make sure everything is well connected. And once it's tested, we'll plug it in and you'll see what it does. Sounds good? Okay, I'll clean up my space and leave it for somebody to try here. Yeah, so your iron's gonna be there. You can try to turn it on. Maybe not to the full max. Let's try a little bit lower than max. Okay, so you have your kit. I'll move out of here and leave it to somebody else. So there's a kit right here. Yeah, this should be good. So here, I'll give you this one.
Thank you.
Okay, your solder is gonna be here. You can have one of these tweezers right here. You have your solder, you have your solder. Yeah, so unfortunately we only have 3 irons for now. So once somebody's done, you'll be able to take their place and kind of go at it. So here, that's gonna be yours. And then we'll help you guys around to get started. So take out your components and start looking at what you wanna start putting together first. Also be mindful when you turn an iron off, it takes a while to cool down. So I turned this one off, but it's still probably hot again. So just be careful with that stuff. Okay.
Starting with this one.
Yeah, so these ones would be kind of the easiest to go with. Now, around 325, 330, 350 is good. And like I was at 315 and it was working. So as long as you're up there, you'll be okay. Yeah, this should be good enough. Okay, before people start assembling LEDs, there's one particular thing about them. They have a direction. So earlier we were doing resistors, right? Which it doesn't matter which direction. LEDs have a direction. It's not gonna work otherwise. The long LED is, yes. Yes, exactly. So in your case, you're gonna wanna put the longer LED there, yeah.
Because the world is negative.
Yeah, so you want to go from positive to negative every time. So positive here, and it goes that way to the right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the long one is the positive. You want to put it in the... Exactly, exactly. Put it on the iron directly instead, the solder. See if it melts. Maybe we'll go a bit higher in temperature. How about this? So we might have to give it a second, but yeah. Maybe we need it higher. What I might actually do, because this solder is really big to deal with, I'm gonna steal this for a sec.
This one's thick, right?
Yeah, it's a bit too thick to be easy to work with. So here, work with this. It's gonna be much easier. Yeah.
So, see, like the LED here, the flat part is here, but on the board, so you need to make them the same.
Yeah, just try melting it directly on the, so don't touch the board, just hold it there for a second. I need to crank it up even more. Interesting.
I think it's.
Okay, it's going. Yeah, you might have to hold it for a little bit longer.
Yeah, because you can see you have some solder on.
Oh, there you go. Now we're talking, yeah. So the first time it's a bit more difficult, but now, yeah, if you apply the heat. Okay, yeah, so it was about increasing it.
Should I keep going? Or?
Yeah, make sure. Yeah, because right now you don't, if you try to remove it, you actually might be stuck, so you'll have to melt it off.
Well, I'm not connected to the board.
Okay, so try removing your solder right now. Yeah, you're gonna have to kind of cut it using the heat. So apply the heat at the base of where the solder is connected. Yeah, and just leave it on for a little bit until it melts. When you see it melt, you can try to take the wire out. There you go. Okay, so now inspect it. So put the iron back here for a second, and we'll look at it, see if it actually worked.
It feels like I didn't do it to the board.
Yeah, so that's a good example of what happens, right? You can see there's bubbles up here, but it didn't actually connect to the board. So what you're gonna have to do is just apply the iron on the metal ring of the board for a bit longer. So you can try that out, and it might fix it. Yeah, we had it correct direction. It was good. Okay, perfect. Just making sure.
Like this one is definitely like.
That's perfect. Yep. Well done.
I think that's good, no?
There you go. Yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah. You have a lot, but it's it works. So now you can attack the other one. Now make sure not to put too much on this one, because then what might happen is it might connect to the other one, right? And then you're shorting your component across.
Pressure's on now.
You got this.
Is that good or?
There you go. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, that's much better. So it's gonna go on improving like that. No, you're good to go. Yeah, as long just careful not to touch and hold the metal when you're clipping it off so it doesn't fly off.
Can I bend it back?
You can bend it back. Yeah. If your soldering is done properly, it's not gonna remove it. It's pretty difficult to break these things, so you'll be fine, I think. They're more solid than they look.
Should I cut this one too? Or no?
Yep.
The small one.
You don't have to, but
Is that perfect?
yeah, no, cut just a long one.
It must be annoying, man.
There you go.
Sorry, where you starting. So
Oh yeah, no. Most of us are even worse, so don't. No. It takes a long time to kind of get really good at this stuff. So
Can I just cut this one though?
yeah. Just be careful. Like point it down, and then just want to make sure it doesn't fly into somebody's eye. There you go. Easy enough. Perfect. There you go. So you'll be ready for the second one now. A lot more to go, but it gets easier. You kind of get the hang of it. Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's perfect. Literally, that's perfect. You can't get it better than that. That is the quality you're looking for, because it's just a little bit, so it's not like a big ball. Yeah, exactly. But it's still very well connected, so amazing. Yeah, you got the hang of it. So
Oh, okay, sorry.
the rest is gonna be easier.
On both sides, on this side?
Oh, as long as you have it, as long as you can see that it's somewhat around.
There's nothing.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it being perfect everywhere. So yeah. I mean, they're sharing it, which is cool to see. Let's see how they're progressing. Very nice. There's a test one.
Is it a bad idea to put two and then do two at a time?
As long as they both hold, you're fine.
So now you can just cut the ends.
We have these guys.
It's a race now.
Hey, you're getting the hang of it, so it goes faster now. So for right now, everybody's kind of doing their thing, but once they're done, if you want, you can take over from, we have a bunch of other kits that you can solder after. So once the station opens up, you'll be good to go. It's okay, the first ones are tough. Hello. Basically what this board is going to do is you're going to be able to shift. So you can put a 1 or 0 and then shift it, and it's going to go through the LEDs. So if you enter 1010, it's going to shift through all the LEDs one after the other. So yeah. Oh, going for 4. Nice.
Yeah. You gotta catch up.
Yeah, they're going fast. What's happening?
Well, yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, that happens. That's fine. If it's connected, yeah. If it's connected, it's connected. There you go. It's gonna be yours now. I realize I don't think we've... Try to hold the lead when you're cutting it off so it doesn't fly off into, yeah. So you can put the board down. Yep. That's okay. Yeah, you can put the board down and just cut it off while you're holding. There you go. Perfect.
Bring some,
What's up?
I forgot how you call it. You know, like the strips to remove the
Desolder?
solder?
Yeah. So we have a little bit of desoldering wick, if ever. There's not a whole lot left, but there is enough. Enough for today.
So you guys prepare these boards for us?
Yeah. So we like to do these small, small boards that are a bit easier to get people introduced to. And then, as you get better, we obviously do more complicated boards, and all the stuff that goes into space has, we build them ourselves. So it's pretty interesting. We use a slightly different way of soldering. It's called using with stencils. So you basically put a big plate on top of your PCBs that has holes exactly where the metal is, and then you put solder in the form of a paste. So you apply the paste, then you put all your components on the paste, and then you bake the entire thing in an oven instead of applying the heat with this. So it's faster, but it works really well with boards that have a lot of components on them, especially the surface mount ones. It's perfect for that. But for these guys, it's obviously better to do it with an iron, because you can't do anything that goes through the PCB with the stencil method. So this is good. Yeah. Can I look at it? There you go.
It's popping out a bit.
They're all connected. That's what matters. It's perfect. Okay. So you can do two things. You can keep going with the LEDs, or we can start maybe looking into soldering these guys. So these guys are these big resistor arrays.
There's no like...
So let me confirm. So I think let me double check real quick. Give me a second. Perfect. Okay. So this is an example of what you're building right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to be aiming to place it the exact same way. So these guys have a direction. You see how there's some writing on it? You have to make sure it's in the same thing. So on the outside, you'll want these letters coming out. Perfect. Yeah. So just do that and you'll be good to go. So for these, it's a bit more difficult because you have a whole lot. So at first, you're going to have to try to hold it at the same time. Yeah. So you can, yeah. So you have to set yourself up so it holds on its own. Make sure it's in the right direction. And then once you solder one of them, the rest is going to hold together, right? But soldering the first one is always a difficult part. There you go. Perfect. So now don't worry too much about how well it is. Just solder one pin and then you'll be able to actually flip it around as much as you want. There you go. That's a good solution. And you should be able to actually adjust it afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you fixate it in place, then it's much easier to play around with how it's placed. So yeah, go for it. Solder one of them. Yeah, so it's going to be Can I see? So it is a bit tilted, but it holds. So you can either keep going with that, or if you want, you can try to reposition it. Either you can bend them up a little bit, or if you want, you can actually kind of put the iron on here and then play around with the position.
Just put this on?
Yeah, because it already has a solder, right?
Yeah.
So if you put the iron and melt the solder that's holding it in place, it's going to go liquid, so you'll be able to play around.
So I tried to be smart about it. I tried to do too excited.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. What I would say in this case is just it's going to be connected, so just do all of them.
Yeah, give it some style.
Yeah, exactly. Some uniqueness. It's good. What's going to be important is that you put your iron on the circle, the metal circle of the board first. So when it gets hot enough, the solder is going to go on it, like kind of automatically. Yep.
So, like, are there some that are like missing a bit? Because I feel like there's both.
They're all connected, so that's the good news. They all have a bit different, so you can see maybe this one has a bit less, right? Yes. Kind of the third one. So maybe this one added a little bit more, but it would work. It's just, yeah, it's better. Yeah, it's better if we go all the way, make sure it's very well connected and all. There we go. That's good.
Should I do keep going?
Yep, you can keep going. You can also, if you want to try attempting these little guys, you can try also. It's a bit different.
Well, just keep it on the surface here, and then you put the iron on.
So yeah, you're going to be looking for that package right there. Yeah, I think there should only be one kind of resistor, so you'll be good.
Five,
512, okay, perfect. So the 512s are the ones that go right here. So R1 and R2 are your 512s.
How do I take them out?
So yeah, there's a little like pellicule on the top of it. So you'll have to kind of, you'll have to go the other side where it's flat, and you'll have to kind of take the small plastic top off. Now be careful when you try to rip it off, the components are going to fall off. So maybe put yourself down, yeah, and then try to open the package. It's a bit tedious, but you got this. Yeah, yeah. and then try as much as possible to heat up the pad, but not too much touch the components because it's gonna push it off, right? So it's kind of that balance to find. You got this.
Oh yeah, it's okay. Honestly, it just means there's more solder on it, but it's okay. As long as it's on the pad.
Yeah, no, it's gonna take you a couple attempts. Also, if you want, like I said, you can put the solder, like you have the solder already, so now you can just try to heat it up and then slide the component into it. Not stuck to me. Yeah, that happens. That happens.
So I just take it off?
Yeah, you can. Well, you're gonna be able to move it off. I think it's stuck because of the yeah. So yeah, you can try again. Yeah, it's not an easy. The surface mounts are not easy. Yeah, it keeps getting stuck. Here. If you want to try these guys, it might be a bit less sticky. I can try to clean this off. I think it might just be some of the flux. Yeah. Oh, careful. Yeah, your resistors. There you go.
Solder on top until you feel that it's not.
So it was kind of more to the higher part, so I had to do a bigger one.
That's fine. Yeah. As long as it's connected, that's what really matters.
Good?
It's good. It's good. Yeah. So I wouldn't sweat it too much. It's gonna work. Again, it's like the first one you did earlier, right? It's a bit tougher at first, but the more you do it, the better it's gonna look. Oh no, this one's sticky now too. Yeah, so what happens is inside the solder, it's not just the actual metal. There's something called flux inside of it, which helps with the bonding of the metals, but it's a very sticky kind of substance. Yeah. So as you solder, the flux goes away from the solder, and then it creates that's why sometimes you'll have a bit of burn marks on your solder. It's not the metal, it's really that flux thing. We have extra here in case. When you have difficult things to solder, this is what you use to kind of help it out. So you can kind of just scrub off your tweezers and it should get better. nice. The buttons are on.
What?
The buttons are on. Very nice. Perfect. Yeah, so just a little heads up. The most difficult part of what you're going to have to do is that USB connector. So if you look at this guy right here, it has a USB connector. This one is a bit difficult to do. So when it gets to that, I'll kind of show you how to go at it and how to properly do it. Because even myself, it took me a couple of tries to get it. So we'll keep that one for last, and then I'll show you all how to do it. Because basically, you're going to be soldering kind of under it, right? Which is a bit difficult. So I'll show you guys. Yeah. Are you curious about the chip?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically it's a very basic shift registers. And what we're going to be doing is using these buttons as inputs to the shift registers and also controlling the clock. So you'll be able to input whatever data you want, and then that will shift the data through the LEDs. So you're going to be able to kind of display the data you input as you clock it in and out. Are you on to the resistors now? So you're going to be on to the... Okay, there's a few more left on that side. Perfect. It's progressing well. It's progressing well. Perfect. Oh, the capacitor, yeah. Here, can I see? Very nice. Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah, so you mean like why you have two of them?
No, I mean the one like to connect the main instrument and the why
Oh, it's the trees.
So what are you about the configuration of like the PCB that we made?
yes. Why is the light the two line to connect LED?
Yeah.
And just not one.
So the LED needs obviously. So the way this works is that the shift registers will like take the current in through the LEDs. So it needs to have one wire that goes from power to the LED, and then one wire that goes from the LED to the shift register, so it can pull current or not from it.
You take the data from the LED.
So you take the high, so
take the high from
yeah, the high is going to be controlled by the switch, but it's going to be fed in by this resistor array. So the resistors allow power to get through, and then you shift through using the, I can show you maybe a bit more how the design is done after. We have the designer with us as well. So you'll be able to understand what he did after.
This one, I'm unable to get it.
Oh, with this one?
This too. I'm unable
Sure,
to
I can show you.
Yeah, just
There you go. Okay, so here. So you're saying this right one?
yeah, this both.
Okay.
I'm unable to get it done.
So you leave it on for a little bit, and then you just melt it right on there. And then you can leave it on again and remove it.
Okay, let me just.
Yeah, go for it. So it's really important to leave the iron on for a little bit so the metal properly heats up, and then you're ready to apply your solder afterwards. So try put the iron on the metal, leave it 3 seconds.
So see here, right?
Yeah. Try to melt the not on the corner, but rather on the iron directly first. So pull it a little bit higher on your iron. Yeah, and then there you go. And now you can try to apply at the bottom. So you see when directly, it melts much easier. Sorry, it doesn't show, but you really have to kind of apply pressure. You push in into this. Whoop.
Just wanted to thank Gabriel for that workshop. We're going to be transitioning over in a few minutes to Thomas for a presentation around software and the challenges related, but that'll be in about